Hello there and welcome to this channel. My name is Dick van Oeveren, and in this video, which is part of a video series covering Aruba data center networking solutions. So in this video, I'm going to show you flow visibility. Aruba Networks has a switch in portfolio. It's the Aruba 10,000 switch, or we call it the 10K. That 10K switch is a distributed services switch. This switch allows you to provide very high speed, low latency, stateful firewall services on the top of rack layer. So it's a distributed services switch. And really, so what we're doing with that DSS, distributed services switch, is that we are redirecting traffic that is coming into the top of rack switch. We're redirecting that traffic into a specific ASIC. We call it the DSM, Distributed Services Module, and we can inspect that traffic. And in addition to inspection, we can also provide full flow visibility through that ASIC. And what we do is basically, and I'll show you that on this slide. What we can do here is, if you can see the switch here with the DSMs, so these are the specific ASICs that we have, we can export the flow data as non-sample data either through syslog or IPFix to an external system. It can be an XDR system, a SIEM system, or a data lake. So it's fully non-sampled flow data that we can export. And now in this video, I will show you how to set up an Elasticsearch from scratch. So Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana, set it up from scratch and get some flow visibility in that data lake. And so without further ado, let's get to it. I have installed an Ubuntu server from scratch. You can see the version running here, 2004. And so on this server, I'm going to install the Elasticsearch instance. Now, the good thing about installing is that there is an extensive document available on how to get all of this up and running. You can find this in the gitlab.com/pensando/tbd. This repository contains all types of integration packages for different, for different external systems. And the Elastic integration, you can find that under the SIEM folder. You have this Elastic folder underneath. And here you have the Elk Pensando integration repository. You can see you get all the good stuff here. There is a README for getting the Elk instance up and running. This is a basic like a basic installation document. If you need more guidance, and that's what I'm actually going to do, is there is an advanced README as well, and I can, if I click here, you can get to that advanced installation. And I'm just going to go through that installation. Let's go to next. Very important, before you get the Elk integration and the Elk package installed, you have to make sure that your Ubuntu is running on 4 CPUs with 16 gig of RAM, and it has 128 gig of hard drive. The hard drive size is mainly because you are exporting a lot of flow data, so you kind of like need a bigger hard drive to deal with all that flow data. Okay, let's go next. And so what we see here is the initial installation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clone the GitHub repository. Let me just copy that one, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the home folder here. You see it's empty, and I'm going to clone that repository into this folder. And then once it's there, you have the Elk Pensando folder, and let's go in there. And next, what we have to do is, let me just minimize. We have to put some, set some variables and set some configurations, make a couple of folders, and let's do that. The first step is to create this .env file. The env file contains information, for example, with regards to the software version that you're running. So the ELK software version, the Elastic software version is version 8. So we need to add a tag depicting that software version. So let me just save that, Control O and then Control X. That's my env file. And then I also have to create a couple of folders in this ELK Pensando folder. Make dir -p. -p will also create the data folder. If it doesn't exist, yes, backups. And let's create that other folder, Pensando ES. And I'm going to change the access rights minus recursive data so that the PSM can actually write the log files into those folders. And I also need to set a parameter for the mappings. So I'm going to set a system control parameter here. And I'm actually also going to write this to the configuration so that every time I reboot the Ubuntu host, that setting is also applied. That parameter is also applied. And then the next step is to compose, to build the Docker image. And for that, we need the Docker and the Docker Compose applications. And I don't think we have those running here. So let me just install those. Install Docker. And I'm also going to install Docker Compose. Which takes a little bit longer. And then once that is installed, I need to create that instance through the Docker Compose up command. And what I can do there is, so if I do Docker Compose up, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the ampersand sign here. This will actually run this as a process. Sorry, should be Docker Compose up ampersand. And so what is happening now is that the process is downloading all the images, Elasticsearch, Kibana, which is the web front end, and Logstash, and it will install those images onto the system in the Docker image. This will take a couple of minutes, so I'll just leave it running for a while, and then once it's completed, I can actually start to get access through the web browser onto the system, because this is really what it is, right? So once it's running, I'll just navigate to that host on that TCP port, and then I can just continue with the setup. So let's just wait for it to be completed. Okay, the installation seems to be completed. You can see all kinds of settings have been applied and configured. So I would think that the ELK server is up and running. Let's see if that is the case. 10.12.99.29 on port 5601. Yes, and you can see that everything is up and running. The next thing that we have to do is to get the index patterns imported into Elastic. And this is a two-step approach. We first have to get this pattern pasted, this JSON pattern pasted onto the local host. So what I'll just do is I'll copy that command, that curl command, and I actually have to put it in the Elk Pensando folder. So I'm just pasting that one. And you can see that the result is that the JSON has been imported. And the other thing that we have to do is that we have to import the Pensando DSS Elk and the JSON. And let me show you where you can find this file. It's actually on the Elastic GitHub repository. We navigate to Elk Pensando, go to the Kibana folder, and you can find that Pensando DSS Elk and the JSON file in here. Just download it onto your local PC, and then you can import it into Elastic. And let's just do that. So for that, we have to go to the hamburger and go to stack management and click on saved objects in Kibana and then import those patterns. Okay, let me do that. So I just go here. Stack management, saved objects, import, and then I'm going to import the file. And that's the Pensando DSS Elk and the JSON. Open and click on import, and it should give you a done. So that's really what it is from the Elastic side. If I now move to the dashboard, you can see that there are some AMD Pensando views. Let me just go, for example, I don't know, go to the SecOps dashboard. You can see that there's nothing in here, right? That's because we don't have an export set up running, a firewall export policy running on PSM. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm on PSM now, and let's check out the firewall export policies. You can see that there's one export policy going to a syslog server, and let me add the export policy for the Elastic server. So we call it ELK. We're going to export all the logs. I want to enable the PSM target, so I want to send off all the flow logs to that ELK server. We're going to use the RFC 5424 standard for exporting the configuration. And then we also have to set the target 10.12.99.29, and the destination port would be UDP 5514. That's the port on which the ELK server is listening. Let's create that firewall log policy, and that's in there. The next thing, a final thing that we have to do is to assign this export policy to the DSSs, to the switches. Okay, so let's go into the system, go into DSS, and you can see here that there is no firewall logging export configured, and so that's something that we have to do. So select both of the 10K switches, go into the export policy selection, select the ELK policy, and hit the OK button. And so now the logging export is assigned. Let's move back to Elastic and see if we are receiving the information from PSM. So what we can do here is we can go into the development console and we can run queries against indices. And with this command, I'm just getting all the indices that are known by Elastic. And you can see that we have actually received, or we are receiving firewall logs from Pensando. And so if we scroll down a little bit, you can see all the protocol source IPs, destination IPs, etc. TCP, UDP ports. Um, so what that means is we can actually start to view the data in a structured way. Now, before I'm going to show you the visualizations, let me just issue another query. Um, so I know that this is the firewall log index name. So that's that one. And let me just do a search on some matches here. So destination port 3306, destination IP 130, source IP 232. All right, let's see if we get some information out of that data structure by issuing this query. And you can see that actually, so we're returning data there as well. And that's the complete flow data, including the timestamps. So you can see the timestamp here in the query. You know, I can change those timestamps, obviously. And so, and this is a continuous stream of flow data that's being sent by PSM to the Elasticsearch. Now let's move to the dashboard. And so we can see the dashboard here. Let's go to the NetOps screen, and here you can see a nice overview of all the flows that we're seeing here with the source port, destination ports. We can filter out ports. You can filter out on VLAN. You know, you can do all kinds of stuff here to see what's being sent in terms of flows. And then we also have the NetOps 2 that shows you the performance statistics of the DSMs. So the DSMs are the ASICs. They're also called ELBA ASICs. The performance that's of those ASICs. There's not a lot of things happening. You can see that the max limit is 800 gig. Each 10K has two of the ELBA ASICs, each providing 400 gig throughput. So that means that we have a total of 800 gig, but there's not a lot of stuff happening there. And then next is the SecOps screen, and that shows you all the flows in time. So you can also do filtering on that. So I could do the accept any. You can see the flow um, rules here and the historical data in terms of the iFlow and rFlow received and iFlow bytes. And then finally, we can also show you a nice visualization of the talkers. So what we have here is, I can also actually add filters here. So let me just remove that filter. Basically, what we do here is we can see all that flow data, right? So we've got like the 232 here, and I can select a different source IP if I want. I can select the 102. Let's see if something's happening on that host. You can see the source and all the destinations there. I can also filter, I don't know, maybe on destination port, say 53. I can see that this source is talking to this DNS server. So, you can filter all those things out, and you can also uh, select some more filters here. So these are the flows over the last 15 minutes, but you can also select different time deltas, right? So It's a lot of good visualization stuff here. And that concludes this video showing the integration with an Elasticsearch. Um, be on the lookout for more videos. There's going to be some cool stuff about APIs. And so yes, the Pensando Services Manager has a complete API interface as well as the Aruba Fabric Composer and the Aruba SCX switches. So there's a lot of things that you can do using the REST APIs. More of that in later videos. If you like this video, press the thumbs up button. If you have any suggestions or questions, let us know, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks very much, and bye-bye.